If you're ready to completely switch things up in your career or finally get that promotion you deserve, check out Adelaide University's 100% online programs. The beauty of studying 100% online is you can do it when and where it suits you, like first thing in the morning before heading off to work, on your lunch break, or after the kids are finally asleep at night. These programs work around your actual life, making it easier to make the switch you've been thinking of. Search Adelaide University 100% online now.
Hello, friends. It's Holly Wainwright jumping into your ears, not literally, that would be weird, to tell you about the next season of Mid and how it's all about you. You see, over the last 5 seasons, we've talked about everything on Mid, from marriage and divorce to hormones and fashion and sex and grief, life, right? And we've had so much feedback from you about your own messy middles that we have decided to make a season all about that, about you and the challenges that you're facing. The next season of Mid is all about dilemmas and wisdom and sharing both those things. And I am phoning in my friends to help. Hopefully, we're going to sort it out. And me and my more qualified mates, we are really going there. Mid, Conversations for Gen X Women Who Are Anything But, is back in your ears with your questions on Tuesday, July 15th.
You're listening to a Mamma Mia podcast.
Australian women, welcome to your full body health check. This is I'm Claire Murphy.
And I'm Dr. Mariam.
And today we are going to introduce you to your sleep cycle because, like our menstrual cycle, it's not all one, just like first you're awake and then you're asleep. There is so much more to it. In fact, there are typically 4 stages of sleep. The first is when you first go to sleep, obviously, and it's the lightest part of your sleep journey. Your heart rate, your breathing, and your brain activity is starting to slow down. It's also very easy to reawaken during this stage, especially if you've got children who'll be like, Mom, and you're like, oh my God, I literally just closed my eyes. Can you not? It is common to drift into and out of sleep during this first stage, and this is when you'll often do that weird, twitchy thing.
Yeah, I hate that one.
Or jolt thing during the phase. This normally lasts, and you go in and out of these stages during the night, so you might go back to this stage at some stage, but about 1 to 7 minutes is the average, longer for some, obviously. Moving to stage 2, this one goes for about 10 to 25 minutes. It's when you go into your deeper sleep. So your eye movements will stop. Your muscles are more relaxed and your heart rate and your breathing gets even slower. So everything is going into full wind down mode here. Your brain waves slow again too, but they'll have the occasional burst of activity. So they're still kind of trying to work out where they're at. Then you'll move into stage 3. Now, this is your deep restorative sleep. Now,
I like this phase.
Oh my God. This is the best phase. It can go for 20 to 40 minutes at a time, but this is when your body's doing all of those things to kind of reconcile what it's done during the day. So it puts, your immune system is repairing things, files away and consolidates all of the things in your mind, short-term memories turn into long-term memories, all of those kind of things. It is a lot harder to wake up from this stage, but sometimes if you are woken up suddenly from it, this happens to me more often than not if I've had a nap in the daytime and managed to reach this level of sleep. It's where you wake up and you're like, oh my God, what day it is? What time is it?
Yeah.
I don't know where I am.
Disoriented.
So disorientated from that. So that is what that stage 3 sleep will do to you. Stage 4 is REM. Now this is that weird 10 to 60 minute phase where your brain reactivates. So it's like it's awake, but your muscles and your body are asleep. They can't physically react to what your brain is doing, but your brain is doing stuff. Now, this is when you'll have those crazy, hyper-realistic dreams that make no sense.
Yep.
But, you'll try and explain it to somebody the next day and they'll be like, okay, crazy. And it's also when your sleep paralysis demon might make an appearance, which is not great, but does happen to some people. There is a very good reason why sleep deprivation is used to torture people and help torturers to get you to spill your secrets, because all of those cycles are so important for us and for your brain and for your body to rest and restore and file things away. Scientific studies show that after 24 hours without sleep, you start to experience mood changes. Like you might start to get a bit anxious, irritable, your vision can become blurred. You also get changes in depth perception, which is why it's really not good for you to drive while you're a little bit sleep deprived, because you can't see properly where everything is in your world. After 48 hours, you might start to hallucinate. And this has happened to me. In fact, we were talking about this.
Yep.
I used to do shift work at a casino, and sometimes I would drive home and think I've seen something on the road.
Yeah.
And it would scare the hell out of me, but it wasn't even there. So that can happen to you after 48 hours. It becomes really hard to think straight, so you can't get your sentences right. After 72 hours of no sleep, which even saying that out loud makes me feel horrible, those hallucinations can get worse. You might also experience delusions and disassociation that resembles psychosis.
Yep.
So we're getting to really scary territory here. After 5 days, you might experience severe cognitive and behavioral disturbances, including full-blown psychotic episodes. That is just 5 days without sleep. Like it feels like forever, but it's a really tiny amount of time when you think about it, and that's how important sleep is. There have been some studies done on sleep deprivation. I'm not sure whether they'd be allowed to replicate these in 2025, but there was done back in 1963, and a high school student, Randy Gardner, stayed awake for 11 days and 24 minutes. He was monitored a little bit loosely by a Stanford sleep researcher, although how they allowed this to happen to a 17-year-old kid is a moral question. Perhaps someone should have asked at the time. He experienced a lot of the symptoms that we talked about a minute ago, but he was also able to hold a press conference after 11 days awake, which is wild. And then he went to sleep for 15 hours and seemed to fully recover at the time. However, decades later, Randy said that he had developed chronic insomnia, which he believes is directly related to that experiment. So it can mess with you. Might not seem like it at the time, but down the track it might get you.
Later.
The Guinness Book of Records also used to have a category for the longest time spent awake, which obviously, due to health reasons, has now been removed from the Guinness Book of Records. But at one stage, the record was held by Maureen Weston. She set it in 1977 for staying awake for 18 days and 17 hours, but she was not monitored scientifically, so we can't verify whether she actually stayed awake for that period of time.
Naps.
She might have been having micro sleeps during that time. And now that we've said all that out loud, who's up for a nap?
Oh, goodness.
I could really go one right now. But I mean, you've been a medical student and we know that medical students have a rough time with sleep because of the crazy hours that you're supposed to work. Like you would have been and you're the mother of twins, which like sleep deprivation's probably been a very big part of your life.
It has. And I think I'm a lot more aware as I've gotten older what impact it has on my life. I think when I was younger in med school, I could just get through exams and do all-nighters.
You could push yourself through.
And have those energy drinks, which were awful, but they got me through, and then I just kind of sleep straight for a week. Yeah. And maybe in my youth, my body could handle it, but then as I got older and started to do night shifts, and then the twins came, and I think it was back-to-back just sleep deprivation, and the massive impact it can have on your mood and your relationships. I can see why it is a form of torture.
Yeah.
I used to tell the hubby that I was just going to go to Woolworths and like do a shop, and I just park in the car park.
Oh, and have a little nap in the car.
And I would just pass out for like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And then just go home and feel like amazing, like refreshed. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sleep deprivation for me, and I mean, I'm talking about, I don't know, being awake for 20 hours, is anger. Like I get really angry.
I get irritable.
So irritable. Yeah. And I like there's no talking to me. Like just don't even be in my presence. Don't breathe too loudly. Don't chew. Like honestly, if I don't get my sleep, I am a very cranky bear. So,
no, I'm with you on that.
Ooh, let's have a sleep. All right. Next, we are getting into all your questions about sleep. Thank you so much for sending these through. There were so many. We are obsessed with sleep. How do we conquer insomnia without drugs? What's happening to us when we get enough sleep, but it never seems like we get enough? And why sleep gets harder when we get older.
Ready to shake up your career? Check out Adelaide University's 100% online programs that actually fit around real life. Whether you're juggling kids, work, or just trying to figure out what's next, you can study psychology, engineering, accounting, health sciences, and heaps more, all from wherever you are. No more rearranging your entire life to study. Take the first steps towards your new career. Search Adelaide University 100% online now.
All right, Mariam, it is time to answer some questions about sleepy time, and hopefully we can stay awake for the duration of this. We will find out. Let's kick off with this question from the Well Waiting Room. This person has written in, I can fall asleep. It is staying asleep that's the problem. Is there anything I can do that doesn't involve taking drugs and knocking myself out?
You're not alone. So falling asleep we know is one thing, but staying asleep is a whole other battle. And there are ways to improve this without resorting to medication. So first, when we look at sleep maintenance insomnia, which is when you wake up during the night and struggle to go back to sleep, we find that it's triggered by things like stress, anxiety, hormonal changes, or even something as simple as a noisy room or needing to go to the bathroom and not being able to go back when you get back into bed. So here are a few non-drug strategies that can work. Keep your bedroom cool. I think the ideal temperature range is roughly about 17 to 19 degrees. You want to keep it dark and you want to keep it quiet. Temperature and light changes in the early hours of the morning can wake you up. So sometimes, that light seeping through the blinds and the temperature changes, they can really disrupt people's sleep cycle. You really want to limit alcohol and caffeine, especially in the afternoon and evening. That can mess up with your sleep cycles. A general rule for myself is I don't have any caffeine, like coffee, after 12 p.m. for myself, because I know if I do, I'm really going to struggle with bed. Cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. We've mentioned it a few times. Yep. It is amazing. One of the most effective evidence-based treatments for long-term sleep issues, and it is very easily accessible. Speak to your doctor about it. Resist the urge to check the time when you do wake up. That mental countdown, if I fall asleep now, I'm only going to get 3 hours, only adds to that anxiety, and you get back into that little warp of, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness.
And it just wakes you up even more.
And then if you feel like you're awake for a good amount of time, so like roughly 20 minutes or so, get out of bed. At that point, we do recommend getting out of bed. Do something calm in low light, like reading or listening to a gentle podcast, maybe this one, and return to bed only when you're feeling sleepy again. It kind of helps to retrain your brain to associate bed for sleeping. And of course, if this is an ongoing issue, don't wait till it's like a really chronic issue. Get in early, see your GP.
You might be able to resolve this easier than you think. All right. Dr. Kath Madison is an academic and research fellow at the Centre for Sleep Science at the University of WA. She's answering this next lot of questions for us. And again, in case you missed her chat with us a few weeks back, she's a scientist who specialises in sleep disorders. But we started off by asking her this question that came in from our DMs. So this person has said, I am postmenopausal and I'm still having night sweats. What can I do about this as it's disrupting my sleep and affecting my confidence?
Yeah, so really tricky time of a woman's life when those hormones are all over the place. This will depend on your preference. We know that the estrogen and progesterone changes have a negative effect on sleep and also have those vasomotor effects, which are those night sweats. Chatting to a GP about your options, whether you're pro or con, to HRT. Alternatively, there are behavioural things that you can do for the vasomotor, the hot sweats and the night sweats, keeping the room really cool, making sure your bedding is appropriate, is nice and cool as well, keeping yourself fit and healthy otherwise, so exercising during the day and monitoring it as well.
Our next question from the Well community is about prescription medication. And again, you are not a medical doctor. You do not prescribe medication to patients. I do not, no. But you understand the science behind it. So this person has asked, I know you aren't meant to take sleeping tablets for more than 10 days, but with my insomnia being so bad, I've been taking an over-the-counter one for 3 years. And I know we're not supposed to laugh, but she has said, will I die?
Unfortunately, with the medications, over-the-counter or prescribed, what happens is they often lose their efficacy over time. So you might be taking it as part of a habit. And then worse still, when you come off the medication, it's been shown that you get rebound insomnia. So not only does your insomnia come back in full force, it comes back worse than it ever was.
Double barrel. Awful.
A double barrel. And honestly, sleep deprivation does feel like you might die. So it's such an awful feeling to your overall well-being, your mental health, your physical health takes a hit as well. Get some support. Go get CBTI, there's a great link on the Sleep Health Foundation that links to CBTI and where your practitioners are and how you can get help.
This next question, I feel down to my bones because I live with a teeth grinder and it is awful to hear at nighttime. But this person has asked, I wear a splint at night to protect my teeth as I grind them, but does bruxism also impact my sleep quality?
It can, yes. It has been shown it obviously affects your teeth, and you wear your teeth, but it can affect your sleep quality. It can cause little micro arousals from sleep, which changes the continuity of your sleep. So if you brief awakenings that you're not aware of, you're not conscious, but does change how nice and continuous your sleep is.
So it's more like bringing you closer to the surface when you should be a little bit deeper.
Yeah. So when we sleep, we go through different stages. We start off quite light, we go into deeper stages, and then we cycle back up. And we do that throughout the course of the night. We have most of our deep sleep really early on in the night and a bit more of our lighter, more transient sleep later in the night. And so it can cause a disruption there.
And I guess bruxism, to be clear, is the technical term for teeth grinding?
Yes, bruxism is the technical term for teeth grinding and is often associated with morning headaches as well, sometimes dry mouth, things like that as well.
Final question from the Well community for you, Kath. I know sleep changes as you get older, but is insomnia inevitable as you age? Does it pass after you've gone through menopause or keep getting worse?
Yeah, it's not inevitable, although our sleep does change as we age for both men and women.
Do we need less as we get older or more?
It's recommended that you need slightly less, but when I say slightly less, this is 7 to 9 hours to 7 to 8 hours. Insomnia is not inevitable. Some of the things that we put in place while we are struggling during that transition might continue on after we've passed quite a stressful time, quite a transient time, particularly with hormones. And then some of it might be, and I hate to use the word, but a bad habit that's not proving to be as positive anymore as it was in the moment.
Thank you, Dr. Madison. Next one is for you, Mariam. Is sleep talking okay? Oh my God, I love this question because my partner is a sleep talker. My partner says all kinds of weird stuff when she's asleep and it freaks me out.
Yeah, so sleep talking, it's actually pretty common and usually harmless, even if it sounds like your partner is in mid-conversation with a ghost. People can mumble, laugh, or just blurt out complete nonsense, and they almost never remember what they've said the next day. So it's a type of parasomnia, more likely to pop up if you're stressed, sleep-deprived, you're unwell with a fever or you're on some certain medications. Can also be associated with other sleep disorders, which is also important to look at.
My husband also has sleep apnea.
There you go. Now, look, I know so many women who suddenly become expert detectives the moment their partners start sleep talking.
Should you talk to them and find out stuff?
They're listening like they're about to uncover some deep, dark secret. Yeah. But honestly, most of the time it's just gibberish. Nothing to see here. That said, if it's happening frequently, disrupting your sleep, there are some other unusual behaviors that you're noticing as well, like sleepwalking or gasping or snoring, it's worth checking in with your GP or a sleep specialist. But if it's just the odd midnight monologue, that's all right. Enjoy the entertainment.
I love telling my husband what he said to me during the night. And you're right, he doesn't remember exactly what he says, but there's a moment where he wakes up enough to realize he's talking.
Yep.
And then he looks at me and he's like, oh, shit, what did I say? And then he'll go straight back to sleep.
Oh, love it.
We threw these next questions at Dr. Jen Walsh, an academic and senior research fellow at the Centre for Sleep Science at the University of Western Australia. I asked her this question from the waiting room. This person has written, my sleep is getting worse as I get older, 43 and female is how she's identified herself, and I struggle to get to sleep and stay asleep. I'm tired all the time. I've done all the tests and everything is fine. I want to know if there are tips to help other than medication. Please help.
Yeah, definitely. I would recommend this person go to see a specialist sleep psychologist who can help them to consolidate their sleep, basically. If they don't want to see the sleep psychologist, and I'm talking about going to see them for cognitive behavioural therapy for insomnia, and if they don't want to see the sleep psychologist, they can actually there are some online programs available that help people to consolidate that, that broken sleep and get them, into the habit of sleeping for longer sort of periods throughout the night. But in the meantime, I would say to this person, don't stress about it. It is really common and there are solutions. So don't beat yourself up over it.
Next question. This one is interesting because I think every single human in the world does this. They've asked, I do that weird jump thing every time I'm trying to fall asleep. Why does that happen?
They're called hypnic jerks and they are really common. We don't know exactly why they happen, but they generally happen around that sleep onset transition, and they can be associated with dreaming. There could be some imagery associated with it, maybe
falling or hitting into something. Yeah,
really common. They can be exacerbated by things like stress, sleep deprivation, certain health conditions, and they might be more common in people with different sleep disorders. But generally, they're considered benign, so people shouldn't worry about them.
Our final question from the Well community is, I read a study that napping too long in the afternoon could actually be bad for you and has also been linked to early death. Is that true?
I have seen this evidence, and I know for a napper it's quite worrying. However, I keep my naps quite short, and fortunately that's what the evidence shows, that if the naps are long, so we're talking over 30, or most studies actually, it's about 60 minutes. If you're napping for longer than 60 minutes during the day on most days of the week, then that is associated with some long-term negative health outcomes. However, if you're keeping the nap short, so less than 30 minutes, then there's no concern. So, yeah, I would say there's your license to nap, but you need to remember that if you are needing to nap every day, then it's probably an indication that you're not getting enough sleep at night. So maybe you want to try and think about the things that you're doing during the day to try and consolidate your sleep so you're not needing to nap all the time.
Back to you, Dr. Mariam. Thank you, Dr. Walsh. This next question, this is one I see comes up in news headlines all the time because it's intriguing. But this person has written, I read about that guy who got off an assault charge because he has sexsomnia. Is that actually a real thing?
Yeah, so it is actually a real medically recognised condition. Mm-hmm. It's a type of parasomnia similar to sleepwalking, where a person can engage in sexual behaviours, so things like touching, thrusting, or even intercourse in some situations while they're asleep, and they have no memory of it the next day. It's very rare, but it's real. It tends to happen during that non-REM sleep, and like other sleep disorders, it's triggered by stress, sleep deprivation, alcohol, or other underlying sleep issues like sleep apnea. More commonly reported in men, and diagnosis usually involves a sleep assessment by a sleep specialist. This is where it gets complex because it's a legitimate diagnosis, but it's also used in some legal defences, which open up some pretty difficult territory when you're talking about consent. Mm-hmm. From a medical point of view, if you or someone you sleep beside may have sexsomnia, I'd really recommend you have that chat with a GP early and get that referral. There is treatment available, and you obviously always want to avoid situations like this.
Well, let's take a bit of a breather before we delve back into the questions. Coming up, we find out about how you actually let thoughts pass you by and whether sleep eating is a real thing.
Parenting podcasts can be a bit earnest. Parenting Out Loud is not that podcast.
This person who I may not agree with politically is trying to talk about integrating children, not just into his professional life, but into public life.
I have referred to myself as one and done. That article did make me rethink the term.
It took about 11 seconds for this to go viral.
Oh God, is this the ejaculate one? That is deranged and I love it.
Parenting changes the way you see everything. Parenting Out Loud takes the big conversations of the moment and puts them through that filter.
Because if parents are thinking about it, we're talking about it.
Parenting Out Loud. Listen weekly wherever you get your podcasts.
We're taking questions today about sleep, mindfulness, and meditation. Mariam, this next question feels like something any busy woman can relate to. They've written, I am exhausted all the time. I sleep at least 10 hours a day, and on my non-work days will often go home straight after dropping my kids at school and crash for an extra 2 hours. I often go to my car to sleep during lunch breaks at work. I eat super healthy, exercise a little bit, 30 minutes a day mostly. I don't drink and have good sleep hygiene. Who do I need to speak to find out what is wrong with me? I thought it may be perimenopause, but have been on HRT for over a year.
You're doing all the right things. You're eating well, you're staying active, you're getting plenty of sleep, but you're still feeling exhausted. So that's telling me that there's something deeper at play here that we need to uncover. Sleeping 10 hours a day, napping at work, and still waking up tired points to something we call non-restorative sleep. It's not a side effect of perimenopause. It's a red flag that we really shouldn't ignore. Since you're on MHT, we know your hormones are already being supported, but let's explore other potential causes. So I'm thinking things like an underlying sleep disorder. If you don't snore, you could still have sleep apnea. So it's a common misconception. It is a risk factor as being in the menopausal, postmenopausal period of your life, and it can cause major fatigue because your brain isn't getting that deep sleep that it needs. As a GP, our job is to consider a full list of differential diagnosis, even though that would be the first thing that I'd be considering. I'd also want to rule out any other organic or red flag causes, things like anemia, vitamin deficiencies, and underactive thyroid, mental health conditions, or rarely something sinister. So I would start by having a detailed chat with your GP. Be really clear how the fatigue is impacting your daily life, because that helps guide the next step, whether that's a full panel of blood tests and a sleep study. And if all those results come back normal, don't stop there. Keep the conversation going. This is really impacting your quality of life. Ask for that referral to a specialist.
Okay. For our next lot of questions, we caught up with our mindfulness expert, Dr. Richard Chambers, a clinical psychologist, and we kicked off with this question from the waiting room. They ask, how do I know if I am meditating correctly? Is it really like the movie Eat, Pray, Love? Or is there something more practical to know I'm doing it right?
Look, mindfulness meditation is something that can be done anywhere, anytime. It can be done in bed, at your desk, behind the wheel, maybe with your eyes open. It can be done waiting at a bus stop. It can just be done anywhere, anytime. And so we don't need incense and candles and ubud and et cetera. It's just something that it should be much more flexible than that. Having an app early on is useful because having that coach guiding us, just reminding us to bring our attention back so that we don't do 4 minutes and 59 seconds of mind wandering and 1 second of mindfulness in the 5-minute meditation. So that's really helpful. A really important message here is that a lot of people, when they try to meditate, over the years, the decades now, people have said, I tried meditation and it didn't work. And every time they say that, I know exactly what they're saying. They've sat down and they've tried to make their mind stop. They've tried to blank out their mind. They've tried to make their body relax, because there's this idea that meditation equals, because you see the pictures and you see this everyone looks so calm, achieving Zen, and it's not like that. It looks like that from the outside, especially if you've got the Insta going and the filters running and stuff, or you're in the movies. But what's happening inside is a storm usually, because the moment you close your eyes and focus inside, you start to notice, oh my God, my mind runs around like a wild animal and it never stops and it loops on the same old stuff over and over again. And we're not trying to stop that. It's really important. We're not trying to stop that. No one can stop their mind. I've been doing it 25 years. My mind still runs around all over the place. What you want to do is just, first of all, anchor yourself in the present. So I might feel my breath entering or leaving the body, or I might pay attention to sounds, some anchor in the present moment. Then I'm just going to recognize that, like a naughty puppy, my mind's going to keep wandering off. And my job is just to notice and bring it back. And if it wanders off 100 times, I notice and I bring it back 100 times. And if I start getting frustrated that it's wandering, or down on myself that my mind won't stop, that's just more thoughts. And again, okay, now I'm judging myself. It's fine. Just come back, focus on the breath, focus on the body. And over time, we will find that we get quicker at noticing the mind wandering off. We develop what's called metacognition, an awareness of our thoughts. So we notice perhaps a little quicker, and we learn to be kinder and more patient with ourselves. And when we do that, we do end up spending a little bit more time in the present. So that's a really important thing if people are wanting to do it right. So to recap, get an app, Make sure it's a mindfulness meditation app if you want to practice mindfulness, because there are lots of different meditations floating around right now. And remember that it's not about stopping your mind or calming down. Even if that happens the first 9 times you do it, it's not going to necessarily happen on the 10th time. So the point is just to be less lost in thoughts and more anchored in the present moment.
Our next question is, I think, something that a lot of us struggle with, and I find it really difficult to practice mindfulness when I get really upset or caught in an intense emotional reaction to something, even though I know that's exactly what I should be doing. How can I quickly calm my physical body to get me out of the spin and return to a normal, rational state?
It's another great question. If we leave it until those moments to try to practice mindfulness, it's going to be a challenge. It's exactly the kind of moments that we do need it, because if we're reacting, getting caught up in fearful thoughts or worries or reactions or judgments, or there are emotions happening in our body that we're reacting to or getting caught up in, that's the very moment that we do want to have some mindfulness. However, we're going to be much better situated if we've prepared that beforehand. I guess if you're out walking in the bush and a tiger's chasing you, and that's the first time you've done any physical fitness in the last 20 years, you might be fine, but if you'd been running and lifting weights and stuff before that, you'd be in a much better position. So we probably want to have it makes a case for that daily practice, so that if we're sitting on the cushion in a relatively relaxed state, the mind's still going to be doing all kinds of stuff, but at least we can learn to bring it back. And then we find ourselves in difficult situations and we've practiced that skill beforehand, which will make it easier. And of course, if we're really worked up, really agitated, having an anxiety attack, and we try to sit and be present with the body, we're full of stress hormones and tension. If we're trying to focus on our breathing and we're breathing rapidly and shallowly, it's pretty hard to not react to that. So there may be other better things that we can do, like physical exercise, going for a walk in nature, being around people that we trust and, getting a hug or have a conversation. Things that just reconnect us with our senses that aren't necessarily sitting down. They can also be really helpful. We might shake, or we might hit a pillow, or we might kind of just, go for a fast run or something. These things can sometimes burn off the stress hormones, as well as, help us release some of the emotion. And then we might be able to sit and meditate more easily.
This person has asked, when meditation guides tell you to let thoughts pass you by, how on earth do you do that?
Well, I'll go back to my earlier comment that, it's not about, the thoughts hook us, don't they? This is the thing. Like we're just habitual beings. And for most of us, if we've practiced exactly 0 minutes of meditation or mindfulness in our lives consciously, it's not to say we might not have had spontaneous mindful moments, but if we haven't been practicing it, what we have been kind of practicing unconsciously is taking every thought seriously. So a thought comes into the mind and we're like, oh, that's my reality right now. Do I follow that? Do I push it away? Do I try to think of something else? So we're very caught up in our thoughts. A lot of us don't have a lot of metacognition or space between us, our awareness, and our experience. So in the beginning with mindfulness, we keep getting caught in thoughts, but there might be moments where we realize, oh, I'm thinking about the past, thinking about yesterday. Let's just come back to my breath, back to my body, back to listening, whatever the anchor is. And if we do that, we start to, as I said before, recognize more easily when our mind's caught up in thoughts. And eventually, maybe sometimes thoughts just go through the mind and we just observe them and then they keep going, through to the keeper. And that's a nice moment if we have that. But this idea that thoughts are just going to drift past like they're on a cloud, it's not usually very realistic early on. I think probably a better way to put it would be that you're going to sit and you're just going to notice what's happening. And you're going to notice that you get caught up in your thoughts and your feelings, and that's going to happen over and over again. But any moment that we realize that we've once again, for the 150th time, gotten caught up in thoughts, in that moment, that's a moment of mindfulness. That is a golden moment. A lot of people miss that because immediately they have another thought like, again, are you serious? Oh my God, I suck at this. This isn't working. I can't do this. This doesn't work for me. And then we're off on another train of thought. But if we notice that we're thinking about yesterday's argument with our colleague or worrying about tomorrow's meeting, in that moment, that's a mindful moment. So we've got a choice. Do I continue with this line of thinking, or do I just come back to this bodily anchor, back to my senses? And any moment that we do that, we're strengthening our mindfulness. So that's maybe a better way to think about it than this nice idea that thoughts are just going to float past like they're on a cloud.
I love this next question because it is something I think a lot of us are guilty of. They've asked, I keep falling asleep while meditating. Is this a good result or do I need to stay awake to get the benefits?
It depends on the result that you're looking for.
If it's trying to get to sleep, probably good, right?
If you want to get to sleep, that sounds pretty good to me, right? And like I said, I will sometimes meditate before getting in bed. I encourage any client that I ever work with who has insomnia to meditate before getting in bed and to use it if they wake up in the night to manage insomnia. Now, meditation is not just a relaxation tool, right? It can be. It can be a tool for improving cognitive focus and work performance. It can be also a way of, I guess you could say, just becoming more aware, waking up, realizing that, oh my God, I'm constantly lost in thoughts and judging and reacting to everything and lost in the matrix. And maybe I would like to step out of that and experience life a little bit more as it is. This is what the wisdom traditions have been inviting us to do. That's why we meditate. And then the stress reduction and the performance enhancement are just pleasant byproducts that come with that. So if you're meditating to sharpen your concentration, you're meditating to, develop more self-awareness or even to just become more present in that way, falling asleep is actually a bit of an obstacle and it's not the best. So someone who's falling asleep meditating should sit up straight. Sit up straight in the chair. You might even sit away from the backrest. So now I'm supporting the weight of my own spine. You might half open the eyes and just rest the gaze on the floor in front so that you're not, eyes closed can kind of do this, as can slumping. If that's not working and you're still falling asleep, I guess it's also giving us some useful information, isn't it? A lot of us, a significant proportion of us are chronically underslept and have massive sleep debts and we need more sleep. And so if you're falling asleep every time you meditate, it's showing you, hey, you're tired. You need more sleep. If activating your parasympathetic nervous system immediately makes you nod off, that's a sign that, and this happens to me, it's a sign that I need more sleep. So I make a renewed commitment to get into bed earlier, manage my sleep hygiene better, do whatever it takes to get more sleep. And once you start to repay that sleep debt, you'll find that you sit and meditate and you actually stay present and focused during the meditation. And that's really the point. If you're wanting to cultivate mindfulness, you need to be relaxed, but also present and focused.
Thank you, Dr. Chambers. He's like my new hero this week because he's helped me learn how to meditate properly. Okay, Dr. Mariam. Mm-hmm. Your final question for today. How common is sleep eating? This person has said, I live alone and have woken up a few mornings to find food scraps out on the bench that I don't remember leaving there the night before. How do I know if it's happening to me?
Okay, so sleep eating, or formerly nocturnal sleep-related eating disorder.
Okay, that feels like a lot of words to describe sleep eating.
Yeah, so it's a type of parasomnia like sleepwalking where someone eats, and sometimes it's quite a lot of food, while they're asleep, and they'll often have no memory of it the next morning.
I've seen people who've set up motion-activated cameras in their kitchen to catch themselves doing it.
It can involve anything from raiding the pantry to cooking full meals. So some people will cook.
Some people are turning the stove on and everything.
And they're often bizarre food combinations. So think Wheat Bix, milk and tomato sauce, for instance. Right. Very strange food combos. Tends to show up more in people who have underlying sleep disorders or have high stress levels or who might be on certain medications like sedatives or sleeping pills. So if this is something that you think you might be having, definitely have a chat with your GP. We'll look into your sleep habits, any medications, and whether a referral to a sleep specialist might be worthwhile. Yeah, it can be unsettling, but the good news is there are treatment options available.
Beautiful. I know we laugh sometimes about things people do in their sleep talking, sleep walking, sleep eating. Like we're a bit of a lull, how funny you do that where you sleep. But it's it can be quite serious and can be
unsettling
and kind of embarrassing for people to talk about if they are doing things pretty extreme while they're asleep. Yeah. So it's nothing to be ashamed of. What you do in your sleep is hardly your fault.
I hope if I was ever a sleep eater, at least I was a sleep cleaner.
Sleep cleaner would be amazing.
Could you imagine?
Sleep balance the books. Can I do my finances?
Could you imagine you just wake up and the house is all polished and
all the laundry's done.
It's oh, Mariam, you're at it again.
Why is it never practical things that you do in your sleep? Look, thank you so much for sending all these questions through. I am blown away by the depth that people are going to try and get answers to things. So asking these questions could be like the first step to figuring things out for yourself. So thank you so much. And we hope that some of this has helped you have a bit more of a restful night.
Yes.
And maybe helping you find out what ails your nocturnal rest time. Make sure you speak to your own GP or healthcare provider to ensure you get health advice that's completely tailored to your needs. Remember, you can send through as many questions as you like, and there's a few ways you can do that. Email well@mamamia.com.au. If you do want to remain anonymous, we have the waiting room. There's a link to that in our show notes. Thank you, Mariam. We will be back for another consult in a few weeks' time, so make sure you get those questions rolling in. Next week, though, we're going to talk about the 7 types of rest, and then we'll be back to talk about perimenopause and beyond. And I already have a lot of questions that are coming in.
I'm so excited
about this. And as someone who is also currently in this fabulous window of life, I have some fun things to share about menopause, which might change your mind about it a bit. And of course, it's in the social media spotlight right now, so I have plenty of things to share. Don't forget to sign up to the Well newsletter too. Make sure you don't miss out on any of the info as we go through it. All that stuff is in the show notes. We'll catch you for your appointment next week.
Bye-bye.
Well is produced by me, Claire Murphy, our senior producer, Sasha Tanek, with audio production by Scott Stronach and video production by Julian Rosario.
Mamamia acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we have recorded this podcast on, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures.
Hi, I'm obstetrician Dr. Patrick Maloney.
And I'm Bridget Maloney. We're the hosts of The Kick, the pregnancy podcast that breaks down everything you need to know about making and growing a tiny human.
We cover it all with expert information and evidence-based discussion based on our experience of running a women's clinic and being parents to 4 boys.
From morning sickness to birth plans, strange cravings to baby movements, listen to The Kick wherever you get your podcasts.